Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It is a good old Saturday, and we got the good old Saturday price action as predicted. Bit of price decay, bit of us, kind of not doing anything, 0% movement, close to 1% if you're lucky, unless you're World Liberty Financial, of course, just making moves for absolutely no reason, but it's fine. Good for World Liberty Financial. I was considering entering it, but I didn't get to. So we'll leave it at that. That's fine. We're going to be talking a little bit about the alt season, what to expect. Are we in it? I'd practically confirm with you guys. Yeah, we're at a very, very early stage of alt season. It's about to kick off very soon. We need the large caps to make their movements, and then we'll be up there. I should have brought more water. I'm going to die of thirst for this whole stream, but it's fine. I'll suffer for you guys. So we have Bitcoin's current price, 115,824. Supertrend is on the rise. It's good to see. 113,375 is where our uptrend invalidates. It's approaching that what would appear to be a support might not be a support in a couple hours from now, but we'll see where our next pivot levels are generated. So far, the pivot levels have been proving really good. Like, they predicted this support very well. They predicted this resistance very well. And also this one. Impeccable. Even better than Fibonacci, I would say, at this point. But amid uncertainty of what's coming up next, I'd say uncertainty, but it's just like lack of knowledge, I would say. Seems like we're sticking close to our Fibonacci lines, right? Based off of what we're looking for resistance. The high, our all-time high, really, 124k, drawn down to our bottom, 107,231. We're looking at the resistance to be right around here, 115,905. And like I said, we're at 115,800. So, going to be hovering around here for the rest of the night, is what I would expect from this. RSI is kind of cooled off, although it's still relatively in the high zone at 62, not necessarily overpurchased. Some altcoins that were not overbought yesterday did become overbought earlier this morning. So that's good, right? It's better that they hit those overbought territories a bit earlier on, so that way we could continue with the momentum and move forward as we progress throughout the week next week, because we got a hard-hitting week. My only concern about this upcoming week is too much optimism, too much leveraged positions, a lot of volatility on Wednesday, and a sell the news possibility on Wednesday as well, because we're getting rate cuts on that day. Of course, I know, it's not like, okay, rates are going to get cut and then we pump or then we dump. It's not going to be exactly that. What's going to matter the most is what our good old pal, Jerome Powell, will be discussing at the meeting. What he projects, because we're going to be getting the projections, and yeah, that's basically it, right? And how the economy is going, whether he's liking it or not. So with the weak jobs data that we've been getting, it's actually boosted our confidence in a possible rate cut, a guaranteed rate cut at this point, that we'll be receiving on Wednesday. So that's already priced into the markets. That's why we are where we are. And we ourselves are expecting Jerome Powell to announce 2 more rate cuts. So 3 in total for this year. 1 that will be done on that day on Wednesday. After that decision has been made, he'll come out with a press conference, and he'll be discussing whether or not we expect 2 more, because that's what the markets are expecting. Previously, we were only expecting to get 2, not 3 rate cuts for this year. I know I sound like a broken record talking about it all the time, but it's genuinely the move for the markets. The reason why, the markets are moving the way they are moving. So it's important to talk about. And we just gotta hope that Jerome Powell sees what we see and is willing to cut the rates. Trump, of course, would love for those rates to come down even a lot further, but they're independent organizations. They don't do what the government says. It's all up to them, basically. They're like the people in charge of balancing the economy. So if we had it Trump's way, we'd have 1% rates and we'd be at, I don't know, 200k Bitcoin at this point. But unfortunately, things are not like that as much as we would love it. And I don't know, maybe for good reason. Could be that 1% interest rate would just cause inflation to soar through the roof, artificially inflate everything. And with the, the tariffs, of course, we know the possibility of inflation coming from tariffs, a big fear from the Fed, the stagflation. We don't want that. So they feel like they did the right thing in waiting. I feel like we probably could have had rates cut a bit earlier, but it's fine. We're still going to be getting, hopefully, 3 rate cuts for this year. So in the end, it's all playing out as expected. I would even be content with 2 rate cuts. I'm sure the markets won't be as content with that because they will punish the markets if Jerome Powell is only announcing that this year we'll have 2 rate cuts. The first one already being included in there. So, and obviously a worse reaction if there will be less than that or no rate cuts at all, which that would go against what everybody is looking at. And the Fed is not going to be playing with our feelings like that. They'll normally follow what we see, right? We're seeing hopefully 3 rate cuts for this year. Let's hope that they follow through with that. All right, enough rate cut talk. Although I do have an article about it later on, but we'll get to that when we discuss it in our news section. Speaking of news, don't got a lot of cover today. Just a brief update, I guess, on our headlines. We're sending more money to Israel. Apparently, the Epstein files will not be released after a vote. They didn't get enough signatures, and the vote was blocked in the end, I guess. And an update on Charlie Kirk's shooter. Although the guy, Tyler Robinson, was not trans himself, he had a trans boyfriend transitioning to girl. And that's why there was that anti-fascist, transgender, furry stuff written on those bullets. So there you go. And also the coincidence of Charlie Kirk speaking of trans violence and then getting shot at that exact moment. Yeah, there was a reason for that. So there you go. It all connected in the end. It all makes sense now. But apparently the trans boy, girl, whatever it is cooperating with police. So I'm sure they'll get more details as that case progresses. Overall, a very tragic event. I'm completely against it. I've mentioned this before. But yeah, that's just a brief update on the case. Then we got some crypto analysis, alt season analysis, more specifically on news happening with Ethereum, Solana, and Binance. So we'll be discussing those as well. And of course, Bitcoin. Can't forget about the big guy. So, yep, hoping this super trend rises up to that, hopefully 114,000. I mentioned 114k would be a good support if we do need to see one, because that would converge with this uptrend line that I've got drawn over here, as well as, the possibility of, if we do stay stagnant here for a while, super trend possibly rising to this level. I mean, we're practically close enough, even if we don't specifically hit that. Like, if we just move around here, you do see that high 113 to 114,000 is a good support level for Bitcoin. As we approach, if price does decay further, not even decay, I'd say a crash, not even a crash, but drops, right, to the uptrend line, we could expect a good bounce from here. If you've missed out, I would not suggest, because I don't give suggestions on this channel, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'd not suggest maybe considering an entry at 114k. Just letting you know. Me personally, if I wasn't paying attention at all, 114k. Or, I mean, you can never go wrong with Bitcoin. Just buy the tops, do what Michael Saylor is doing, DCA as much as you can, not as much as you can, as little as you can, I'd say. Any little bit that you could afford to lose, go ahead and throw it into Bitcoin. It'll do you no harm. At the end of the day, everyone will benefit. All Bitcoin holders who are holding it in spot, which would probably be the wisest thing to do. Don't do what I'm doing with leverage trading on futures as if I was trading spot, because this could go south really quick. an unexpected turn of events, and I could lose it all. I could, you know, be gone forever. I have no stop losses on any of my trades here, because when I do put one, we'll get a Solana scenario where it'll drop down to hit my exact stop loss and then start rising as the best performing cryptocurrency in the past week. So, you know, yeah, that's life. We'll see what happens though. I have my largest position, of course, in Bitcoin because, like I said, you can't go wrong with Bitcoin. So that's the good thing about it. Great. Moving on. Let's talk about Ethereum, which had also a great, finally started having a good rise over here, breaking out of its downtrend. We have now a confirmed uptrend, and we are seeking our all-time high levels once again. What do we do here? We bottomed out already, so it's time to draw one of these. And if I'm right, I'm not right. We're at one of the Fibonacci levels, of course, 0.618 Fibonacci. Ethereum's price $4,660. Close to this 4,671, of course. After that, we have 4,800 as a resistance. Our all-time high of 2021, which is 4,865. Our current all-time high, which is 4,956. And then 5,000 itself as a key psychological level for breakout. We want to see Ethereum above 5,000. Let it be so. I will not be participating in none of that. I claim no energy from Ethereum. No negative energy. I'm treating it like it's a demon. I'll stay out of it for now. It's had a good rise though, and this is to be expected. It is necessary for Ethereum to have this kind of a rise so that we can enjoy the gains of the alt season, you know. What have we got here? That looks really good. This uptrend. Yep, I will stick with it. That's your uptrend for the rest of this bull run. Enjoy. Perfect. Moving on, we've got Solana, which I briefly mentioned, having a fantastic week and against all odds, kind of pushing a little higher today for $244.17 was our high. We were literally 3 cents off of our actual recent high, local high, 244.21. That happened, I think this was yesterday. Yep. We did hit a low, though, of 235, just a sudden drop, but we've kind of recovered from it, trying to make a new high again. Clearly struggling at this level, 245, I would say. No specific level in sight. Oh, we have resistance for it. It was completely camouflaged. Okay, there we go. It makes sense, then, that we're slowing down at this level. And we are technically at an overpurchased level in the RSI momentum indicator, so could take a bit, you know. Wouldn't surprise me if Solana does have a bit of a drawdown against all other cryptocurrencies, of course. While everything is rising, Solana can have a drop. Can. I'm not saying it will. Because, you know, the way Solana's growth has been going, this is organic growth, except for maybe this. It seems like a little bit of FOMO as Solana was reaching newer highs. So, you know, we kind of corrected that big jump over here. But the uptrend is still there, and it's still very solid, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a drop around 225 is what I'm saying. And if it does, don't panic. That's normal, that kind of a correction, because it needs a break. People have to take profits. People will be looking at other options. They'll see the rise of Solana and be like, okay, what's the next big guy? XRP? I don't know. Let's talk about it. It's also done a bit of a correction. 309. After hitting a high of 318 yesterday, we're approaching this level over here, 307 approximately, 308 current price. We do have a good uptrend, although this one might likely be broken first. We could still pay attention to this longer one. I have a couple drawn over here just to kind of help determine which one we should be paying attention to, because the fresher the uptrends, the easier they can be broken, the less you should rely on those. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a break of this. The super trend itself invalidates at 290, so I would focus more on this one probably. if it's an immediate drop, right? We shouldn't go lower than 290. But over time, you know, we could rise or have its decay because XRP kind of likes to use that. Then I would focus more on this longer term uptrend, which would make the most sense since it has the most history and the more fundamental energy to keep things pushing forward, right? Less likely to be broken is what I'm trying to get at. So there you go. I would wait here for new pivot levels. I mean, I could draw Fibonacci, right? Oh, I absolutely can. Let me go to a daily chart because this is too convoluted. Get ready for a lot of lines. Resistance at 318. That explains the slowdown here. Congratulations, you figured it out. And yeah, we're approaching 307, 306, as I mentioned. This could be a good support. That gives me more confidence that, you know, we could drop to here and then bounce forward using this uptrend as our guiding force. But wouldn't rely on it too much. If you do want to FOMO into XRP, you could consider a DCA. Not financial advice, but probably around this area could make sense. 306, 307. I'd advise completely against that, but if you really, really want to exposition it to XRP for whatever cynical reason, yeah, that's a line to consider. But once again, I do not wish to participate in any of that. That's why I'm taking profits, maybe arguably a bit early on XRP. It's not that I don't trust the project, it's just that, you know, I feel like it's too slow, it's too big already, too many centralization. The banks are there. It's good to have XRP because you know it will rise. The ETFs are not yet out. In October they will be, so one could argue that's already priced in, but I don't know. If you want to make some return out of it, that's a good catalyst that could continue the price, that could make the price continue rising, right? Moving on to SUI, drew also one of these. We hit this resistance 388. This happened today. Yeah, it did. That caused us to reach, you know, our over purchased area this morning. So that was good. We didn't see that level yesterday when I was streaming. We were about over here at 374. So the overnight pump, it helped validate, yes, we did hit our over purchased area, which is a good thing. From there, we could kind of recoup and reaccumulate to get ready for the next big move on SUI, which I am looking at. I'm like, if I was to take profits on SUI, it would be much higher. $5 plus, I would say. I think I already have a take profit up there, don't I? I do. 535. No. Yeah, 535. And ironically, I'm making 5,355. Like the fives and the threes and the fives, it's pretty cool. Just coincidental numbers there. But yeah, so far, really good rate of return on SUI. Probably one of the third top 3 best returns I have. No, the second place best return. Top return is Bitcoin. Interesting. Yeah, I felt that on SUI. Seeing Solana rise after Ethereum made its all-time high and SUI was like showing a bit of weakness, I'm like, okay, SUI's got to be next on its big movement. These were great areas of accumulation, and I took advantage of that. Ended up with an average price of 335, and from there we started rising, and decent profit by now, but I'm resisting the urge to click on that sell button with it yet, because I'm confident SUI will continue much higher. I feel confident that SUI will outperform assets like Solana or XRP in this cycle specifically. So, good, great. And by the way, I do have positions open on SUI, believe it or not, at the price of like 420 or 440, I think. So, and that's on my standard futures account. They're significantly in negative return, right? Because I purchased those back in like January. I've been holding since that long. So the fact that I started fresh with this perpetual futures account, those are in my standard futures account. The fact that I started fresh with this one, it's like, okay, I gotta sell like at least further than what I purchased on my other account, right? Because then I'd just be selling too early, and you know, we know alt season is coming, so I gotta hold on to those and get some return out of it, because I've been suffering with those high positions for a while now. So I think it's only fair. We'll see though. Cardano also hit its overpurchased area at 95 cents was its peak this morning, early morning. We have since then dropped. We are at 91 currently, 91 cents. I still have a good outlook for Cardano. My expectation for Cardano above $1 should be happening pretty soon. And yeah, I'm also in it with an average price of 82. Decent return, but would like a bit more. In terms of supports, 85, 86. That's like worst case scenario for the uptrend, but this super trend should technically follow if we do make a bounce on it, which if this Fibonacci is correct, we could see a bounce something like this out of 90, 90 being the psychological level. We'll have to see with new pivots that are being generated tomorrow though, because right now it's a bit too difficult to determine that. But I think it would be a decent run overall. You know, we're still in an uptrend, should continue making higher highs, higher lows, so should be really good. Chainlink also making a new high this morning, 25.53. Also at 4 a.m. Like, what are you doing at 4 a.m. on a Saturday? But overall, we kind of drew back from that. Current price is 24.93, and this is a clear support right here at 23.60 to 23.75. Right? Wrong. Right. No, that's wrong. I mean, if I do draw a new Fibonacci level, it's not going to help out too much. I would even draw a Fib extension at this point, I think. I might. We're at a support level right here. Yeah, this kind of slowly is invalidating. We're looking at resistances first, so I'll keep this drawn. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to guess, like, yeah, 25, 26, every number is going to be a support, because we basically see that, right? 25, first resistance that we have right over here. Second resistance, 26.47. And then the last one is 27.72, the local high that we made a couple months ago. Well, last month, August 22nd. And then from there, what? Our all-time, is it an all-time high? It was like 30. It was not an all-time high. We hit an all-time high of much higher. 30 was like last year's high, or January. I'm on the USDC chart. I'm not going to find what I'm looking for. I'm going to go to USDT here. 27 was the high in January of 2025, but November, December, Trump victory was 30. And then our actual all-time high in 2021 was like 50, if I'm not wrong. 47. Yeah. But like using those levels doesn't give you much information. Yes, I will be taking profits at around 30 with this minuscule positions that I have in Chainlink. But it's like from there, what do we do? Right? Oh, I did draw a Fib extension. Probably in the wrong area, though. This was like more for analysis back over here, and I think it's a bit too outdated. I draw a more short-term one, and I'm also looking at USDT. I'm going to go back to USDC now. All right, here we go. Lowest point... Ooh. We could use two possible areas. Yeah, that's where it gets complicated. It's where it gets complicated here. I'd focus more on this one because this uptrend could be broken easily. So I'd focus more on this longer term one if I want to look for Fibonacci levels that could possibly really matter. So I draw the Fib extension from there to here to our bottom there. And that gives us new resistance levels after the 27. We could see one at 28 and then at this 30. That would probably have me needing to consider to drop this take profit a little lower than that. If those people will be seeing the exact same thing I will, unless we use this line, which I just want to see what it looks like. I don't know. It's practically the same. That's where it gets difficult. Really, it's... you know, you could always ask AI how to draw this precisely, but this is the kind of level I'd think I'd pay more attention to for now. We're already coinciding with one of the levels, right? The 25. So I don't know. I could also base it off of pivot levels that we will get tomorrow to help determine exactly where to draw. So that's what we got. World Liberty Financial I mentioned. Huge pump today, 7%. Reached a high of 23.12. Yeah, I just didn't purchase for no reason. And Stellar, it also made a new high overnight, hitting a high of 41. Decent return on it so far. It's dropped down to 39.93 approximately, so still overall confident on Stellar position, second largest position that I hold. Clear support at 37 or just below my entry price, so if we do go negative on it, we shouldn't go too negative. Worst case scenario, of course, being that we do get a bad drop on it, but I'm confident that we could have a good bounce if need be, right over here. Great. That's all I have for these. What else do I got? Aptos. Good rise on it so far. Keeping its uptrend, that's good. And Litecoin, I'm sure it's just flat, isn't it? It's kind of made a new high as well overnight. 120 we finally hit. Bit lackluster from Litecoin because I feel like it did not rise as much as it should have. I'm also a bit angry at Litecoin because I had like 2 orders like right below these lines that did not get filled, but it's fine. I still have exposition to it anyway, so I'll play around with it, see where it goes. Sonic had a higher movement than this. We were basically twice as high than where I was right here. We hit a high of 32, so that's really good. And not that we bounced off of this Fibonacci level, but we bounced off of this downtrend from these 2 lines over here. Well, that's just way off the map, but you know, it's fair enough that we hit a high right over here, but at least we have super trend on our side with the uptrend, right? I do technically have my entry at a support. This would probably be, hopefully, it'll stay that way next week when we get our new pivot levels, like I say. So I think that should still be good. It's in good profit right now. Might regret not putting more on Sonic because I feel long term it will be genuinely ultra good. So yeah, I'm still very bullish on Sonic. But Bitcoin has just had a very boring price action today. This is why it's difficult to like trade on Saturdays. But you know, sometimes you get an oddball like World Liberty Financial just doing its own thing, just rising for like no reason, no good reason. I'm sure it does have a reason. I could probably look it up. Can I ask AI? Why is the trend of will buy like this today? I'm gonna ask it like a boomer. Whoa, I put 2 E's. Let's see how intelligent this Bing X AI is. I haven't really tried it. Its price action shows a sharp rise followed by increasing volatility and a pullback, so fueled by positive momentum from Project Wings launching on Solana and Binance futures, announcing a new World Liberty Financial USDC perpetual contract with up to 75x leverage. Okay. They're getting added, it seems, to new exchanges with derivatives options, right? Futures trading, high leverage. After the spike, it began to decline. Controversy emerged. The blacklisted wallets, yeah, we already know about that stuff. The Justin Sun situation, I covered it extensively in the past. This is like very macro, right? The 31% drop. They burned 47 million World Liberty Financial tokens in an attempt to restore confidence and scarcity. However, the damage to sentiment lingered, leading to choppy bearish price action over the past several hours. That's kind of what I wanted to take advantage of because, like you could clearly see here, it'll just have a small movement in its like cents price. And like that's already a huge percentage movement. Like the volatility on this, specifically for trading, seems really good, right? If you're using anything like a, I don't know, 5-minute chart strategy with a 1-to-3 risk reward ratio, that's the kind of volatility you need. And I feel like World Liberty Financial can provide that until it becomes a little too big where it doesn't get that volatile enough. So yeah. That's what we're seeing here with this. We also have CoinMarketCap's AI, which is pretty good at summarizing like why trends are the way they are. Surprisingly, we're lower on the market trend. Oh no, we're number 26. Why does this always lie to me? It says we're number 31 here, but then I click on it and it's like, oh no, we're number 26. Okay, pal. So which one is it? Why is World Liberty Financial price up today? Justin Sun's token freeze, we already know about that. Supply shock dynamics, the 47 million token burns, and just technical rebounds. Yeah, practically no real reason, I would say, because this is all old news, right? The token burns and the world, Justin Sun's blacklist. So yeah, that's to be expected. Great. Moving on. All right, let's talk about our news. This is the biggest news that I could find today, so there you go. I'm reporting you with the biggest news first. And it's a letter from Donald Trump to all NATO nations and the world. Something that I alluded to maybe yesterday, but it's official today, right? Trump says that he is ready to do major sanctions on Russia when all NATO nations have agreed and started to do the same thing, and when all NATO nations stop buying oil from Russia. Which, this is a brilliant idea. As you know, NATO's commitment to win has been far less than 100%, and the purchase of Russian oil by some has been shocking, specifically India. It greatly weakens your negotiating position and bargaining power over Russia. Anyway, I'm ready to go when you are. Just say when. So he's now calling on the NATO countries, get involved with it. Put tariffs on India and China so that because they're buying Russian oil. Cripple the Russian economy, encourage them to stop the war, I guess, this way. Get them to have a peace talk with Ukraine, and we can end the war, and we can all be happy. I believe that this, plus NATO as a group, placing 50 to 100% tariffs on China to be fully withdrawn after the war with Russia and Ukraine is ended, will also be of great help in ending this deadly but ridiculous war. China has a strong control and even grip over Russia, and these powerful tariffs will break that grip. I feel like Trump is going to be known as the president of tariffs at this point because it's everything. He's been solving every world issue with tariffs. You know, there's not enough toilet paper, tariffs. You get the point, right? It's effective, though, I will agree. He's got the world by the neck, for lack of a better term, because of all these tariffs and making things go his way. 5D chess, art of the deal, you get the point. This is not Trump's war. It would have never started if I was president. It's Biden's and Zelensky's war. I'm only here to help stop it and save thousands of Russian and Ukrainian lives. Last week alone, 7,118 lives lost, which is crazy. That is crazy. That is a lot of people. If NATO does as I say, the war will end quickly, and all of those lives will be saved. If not, you're just wasting my time and the time, energy, and money of the United States. So there you go. Trump is calling them out in public. All these NATO countries, hey, get involved, help stop this war. If you really want the conflict to end, you will be tariffing China and also India. India was also mentioned in a different post. It wasn't specifically on this one. But yeah, that way we can pressure Russia to end the war. So hopefully that happens. We'll see what their responses are to this, whether they'll be like, you know what, yeah, it's going to hurt our economies, so let's just finish up the war, tidy it up, let's go. Or if they're just going to be like, oh, you can't tell us what to do, and then they'll just go in harder, which that's kind of what we don't really want. And it seems like Russia is kind of blowing it all off because they keep doing their drone thing. We're hearing sirens in southeast Poland as Russian drones are entering the Polish airspace. We see Romanian jets intercept a Russian drone in Romanian airspace. There are drone alerts in East Romania, reports of a second Russian drone entering its airspace. I don't know what they're doing with all this drone stuff. And we also, even have a direct threat from Russia to countries like Finland. They're kind of expanding their horizons a little bit, which, I don't know. Yep, there are lots of Russian drones entering Polish and Romanian airspaces as of September 13. Self-defense is done. Officials describe it as a violation with no direct Russian denial found in searches. So, yeah, what is going on with Russia? They got to get that fixed. In other news, Israel will receive over $650 million for missile defense under the $895 billion National Defense Authorization Act. Congress extended Israel's access to U.S. weapons stockpiles until 2029, while forcing Pentagon briefings on weapons transfers, blocking ICC warrants, and boycotting global arm expos that exclude Israeli firms. So we keep sending money to Israel. U.S. lawmakers also push a bill to strip passports over Israel criticism. You better not criticize them because you could lose your citizenship, is what it seems like is going on here. A new bill in Congress could let Secretary Rubio revoke U.S. passports from citizens who criticize Israel, The Intercept reports. The proposal comes after Rubio already revoked visas and green cards of foreign nationals, including a Turkish student who wrote an op-ed against Israel. Okay, for foreign nationals, revoking visas and green cards, sure, I could kind of wrap my head around that. Although, you guys have free speech laws in America. People say yes, but there's consequences to it. Okay, fair enough. But stripping the citizenship of someone in America for criticizing another country, it's like, okay, what's really going on here? Anyway, it's just a side note. The bill cites material support for terrorism, but critics warn this vague language could be twisted to punish speech, protests, or even journalism. Civil liberties say the move risks turning political dissent into a crime and creating a thought police system that silences critics of U.S. allies. I don't know. It's I think it's okay because we don't want to see these pro-Palestine riots and the protests that are going on, because they're genuinely, they're burning stuff down, they're attacking police and, disobeying the law. So sure, to shut it down that way is one thing, but to completely ban it and also revoke citizenship of a country, it's I think that's a bit too extreme. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. I'm clearly not the only one that thinks that way. All right. I do want to read some of this. I don't know if I do want to read all of this. Actually, it is a whole thread. Wednesday, the Fed will cut rates for the first time in 2025 and blame a weak labor market. This will be just the third year since 1996 with the Fed rate cuts. What? Yeah, okay. So we'll be cutting rates for the third year since 1996, while the S&P 500, the US stock market index, is at record highs. Because we do see that. S&P 500 is indeed at all-time highs. Let me see if there's anything important specifically. .com bubble, 1929, Great Depression. Okay, sure. People are saying that, yeah, we are at very overpurchased areas and a correction is going to happen very soon. I don't see the catalyst as to what would cause that, but I understand where they're coming from. Yeah, we've been at all-time highs for a very long time with the S&P 500 and such. Something's got to happen. Something. I feel like that something might come in 2026, but it should pick up again later on in the year of 2026, because what's the real reason? Why are we going to drop for? Why? Devaluation of US dollar, that just makes things go up higher. It makes people want to buy things that go against the US dollar, right? It's a rather unique situation for the Fed this time around. They cut interest in a weak economy with stocks well below record highs, right? That is why we saw those rate cuts happen in years after the pandemic. And that's why we got a lot of inflation, because it was to save the economy. Everything was crashing. You look at the pandemic crash, it was over 50% on a lot of indices, stocks. So it wasn't that good. But while the strength of the economy is up for debate, the GDP growth is pretty good. It's at 3% per year. Inflation data is running hot yet again. yeah, I guess you could read this on your own spare time, but it's a lot. This is the real post, I guess, that I wanted to cover, is that the rate cuts are at record highs. In 20 out of the last 20 times that the Fed has cut rates within the S&P 500, with the S&P 500 at record highs, the stocks ended higher 12 months later. This is obviously a bullish thing because you cut the rates, you get more money flowing, all that money will eventually come into the stock markets and assets and equities, right? In fact, the S&P 500 rallied an average of 13.9% over the next 12 months, according to Carson Research. I'm assuming this is after the Fed cuts rates. However, in 11 out of the last 22 times that this happened, stocks ended lower 1 month later. So that could bring some volatility to the downside is what they're speculating here. 1 month after they cut rates, we could bring it down a little bit. So don't be surprised if we do see a drop, like I said. But it's not going to be too significant either way. I'm still of the belief that end of year this year, Q4 2025 will be our cycle top. So we got to see Bitcoin, Ethereum keep making all-time highs. And then we'll see the rest of the altcoins, of course, as well do their alt season thing, which I'll be discussing on the next post. Near-term volatility will lead to long-term buying opportunities. Okay, good. Alt season explained. There's a flow chart going on here. We see Bitcoin pump, we see Ethereum pump, then we see Bitcoin pump again, we see Ethereum make a new all-time high, then we see large caps pump, etc., etc. I'll talk about the rest here. We take profits on our coins while perma bears FOMO at the top. For anyone wondering where we are right now, this post claims it's the 5th phase, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're seeing large caps pump, specifically things like Solana, and things like, I would even suggest Chainlink, right? Obviously, don't look at today's numbers, but just look at the broad scale of what the charts have been looking like. This kind of growth on Solana, it's impressive. And we're still making new highs as we speak. So that should tell you something. Large caps are pumping. What is next? Bitcoin will make a new all-time high. Which, that is what I'm expecting, right? We could see Bitcoin cross 124K easily, and then start rising to whatever next target we have here. My personal target is 135,000, and that's just me being super conservative. I think we can, realistically speaking, hit this level and break far past it, without a doubt. But I'm just playing it super safe in the unfortunate case that we don't, because market likes to go against you. This is a game of you versus the market. The market's not always going to be in your favor. It's going to try to take your money from you. That's how it works. That's how the business works, is take money from the foolish, right? So that's what they call it, like dumb money, right? When the FOMO kicks in, when alts are at their all-time highs, when things are at its peak, that's when the dumb money starts coming in. That's when retail traders start panic buying, like, oh my gosh, it's going up so much, I'm going to buy now because tomorrow it'll go higher. And then one day it all stops and people all take their profits, and you will be stuck with having your purchase at the top. You'll be super negative. You're like, oh, this is not for me. You'll sell at a loss, and you'll be discouraged of investing. And that's when the retail traders leave. That's when we enter the bear market. But that's a process that takes a couple months as well. Some people even argue that we will no longer have a bear market. I don't know if I believe that. I'll keep it safe just in case. I'll continue to DCA, buy any dips that I can find, any good ones, right? Because even if you do what I do, for example, DCA, RSI, 4 hours, low levels, oversold, you buy those, buy the support levels, things can still continue going down. A big tongue twister there. Even if you have something considerably safe in terms of leverage, like what I use 3x leverage maximum. You can still get liquidated. You want proof? Look at Ethereum, right? No matter where you bought Ethereum in 2024, you got liquidated guaranteed in 2025. Just saying. So you got to be cautious with that kind of stuff. Anyways, after Bitcoin makes its all-time high, we'll see Ethereum and the large caps hit their all-time highs. We're going to see this for probably not Chainlink, but I'm talking... yeah, Ethereum 5K plus, Solana 300 plus, and then we're going to start seeing the, I don't know which large caps specifically they're referring to, maybe XRP for sure. Maybe Sui. Sui could do it. Hit a new all-time high. And then the mid caps will start pumping. I guess that's where that gets involved. And then low caps start pumping. These are coins that are below $100 million in market cap, right? And of course, these are the ones that have the potential to grow the most because they're like the forgotten coins. You go to CoinMarketCap and you're like, okay, well, what is this project talking about? You don't know what, let me go to like page 5. I don't know. What does Wax do? What does Avo do? What does Soon do? What are these coins? What do they do? That's when people start doing their peasant research and figure out, oh yeah, this could pump. And they see it pump and I don't know. One whale buys this, drops $10 million on it, boom, this thing will skyrocket in terms of percentage significantly. Look at this, for example, 54% up, whatever this is, Hi-Fi Finance. What, you know, terrible price action, but huge pump today specifically, I guess. Oh, not today, but within recent hours. Yeah, you're going to get something like this on a daily basis because people are like, what's the next hidden gem? What's the next thing to buy? And it's hard to figure out which one that's going to be unless you do your hard research and figure out which projects actually have potential, right? Low caps. Nothing on the front page here, right? So that's where we're at here. This one says the exact same thing, but we are transitioning to phase 3. What was phase 3 on this one? Bitcoin pumps again. This guy said we're on the 5th phase. Yeah, I feel like we're on the 5th phase. And here's like a flow chart of it actually though. Some people argue we're in phase 3, some people argue we're in phase 5. I feel like we are. Phase 6 will be next. It makes sense. Bitcoin will make a new all-time high, and then Ethereum, and then large caps. Solana, XRP will make their all-time highs. BNB, we're already seeing hitting all-time highs. Yeah. So that's your little alt-season analysis, so congrats. Bitcoin shorts will be liquidated at 120,000, of course. What's the next move? It's $7 billion worth of Bitcoin shorts that we're expecting to get liquidated after 117,000. So from 118 to 120, that's $7 billion in liquidity waiting to just do something like that, you know? Well, pretend that's a straight line. There you go. Something like that. Should happen soon. Breaking 118,000, I hope, at least. We'll see when we get our new pivot levels. Bitcoin had a powerful close on the week at 116,000. This is where we got to pay attention to, of course, if you do believe in this stuff, by the way. But way more charts are breaking out and exploding. Ethereum had a surprise pop over 5%. Many more charts pumped way more. The primary concern, I agree with this one, is the CME gaps being formed over the weekend. So it's a good thing that we're seeing Bitcoin do this. It's healthy. If Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana can remain stable, then we should be good and not have to worry about CME gaps potentially dumping prices on Monday. So if we stay flat like this, because Friday we closed up here, 116,000. Okay. Next week happens, Monday. If we stay flat and we open here, there's no CME gap left to fill. Like, this doesn't exist. Okay, I'm drawing like nothing here, but whatever CME gap we get, that can easily be filled and, you know, we'll continue higher, no problem. The issue will be if we have like a weekend pump like this, we'll have a CME gap that we have to fill starting from 116,000 to wherever we are. Say if we're at 119, 120,000, let's just say we liquidate all those shorts tomorrow, which would be not that good. It probably means we'll have a drop over here to fill up this gap. And even if we don't have this drop, even if we like skip this drop completely, that CME gap is going to be there forever. And the bigger we rise, the harder we'll drop to eventually fill that CME gap. It's what the theory says. I'm not saying that this will actually happen. Some people just say it's all complete bogus, doesn't really exist. It's just mind games. But it's something to pay attention to nonetheless. Am I clicking on the drawing? Is this a drawing? Yes. Okay. The dominance percentages are still wildly in favor of alts, particularly Solana dominance. There's no surprise there. Yep, we have seen that, the way Solana has been performing. I don't really concern myself with CME gaps on Solana specifically. Man, it just keeps going. 246.56. So obviously we're going to have a CME gap on Solana, probably, if we do keep this up, right? Like if we reach this resistance, your CME gap will be this area right here. But I'm like, that's nothing. It's no problem to fill that up if we do have to continue higher, right? So I'm not too concerned with like CME gaps on Solana. I'd more focus on things like Bitcoin. They say the CME gaps are always supposed to get filled, no matter how far they are. And it has happened in the past, to give them credit, right? But yeah. So many charts are printing TBO breakout on the 4th in the last 24 hours. La 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 la. I'm expecting bullish price action to continue for these into the weekend, so long as Bitcoin doesn't have a surprise dump. I don't think it will. And if we do, 114,000 minimum. Or maximum, if you're looking at the downside. Bartcoin Act. I don't care why people are looking at these. Buy something that has utility. Sonic. All had nice moves yesterday too, whether it was pushing above resistances or showing bullish reversal signs growing, which I agree with. I don't look at MNT. I heard of say it's decent, but not the best. Things like Sui or Aptos, infinitely better. Sonic, way much better than all of those combined. Dogecoin, I will admit as well, had a good move, had a good run. So there we go. Thanks for the analysis. Mining in Ethiopia, Bitcoin mining, it only costs like $20,000. And then you can sell the Bitcoin that you earn for way more than that, 5 times that amount. The miners have paid government $220 million in fees last year using cheap hydro from the new dam. Ethiopia is quickly becoming a Bitcoin mining hotspot, which I agree. Mining in Africa seems to be pretty cheap. So, well, I think I had a map last time. I don't know where it is, but yeah. Good for Ethiopia, I guess, if they want to keep that up and make a Bitcoin strategic reserve with their Bitcoin mines. Although it's not going to be that much, of course. There's only so much Bitcoin you can mine. We only have less than 1 million left to mine, to be exact. And they're a poor country. So I think, at least, I don't know. I have this stigma that all African countries are poor. I don't know. I'm sorry for my ignorance, but yeah. It's good overall. Like any country, rich or poor, buy Bitcoin. Do it. China should do it. This chart changes the ETH versus Bitcoin narrative. Everyone's looking at total ETF flows and calling it a BTC-led story, but ETH versus Bitcoin cumulative flow charts show something very different. So here's an analysis. Bitcoin ETFs pulled in $56 billion since its launch, and Ethereum ETFs, despite launching months later, already attracted $26 billion. If you scale it to the market cap, the inflows on Bitcoin has a total of 2.6, and the Ethereum inflows have a total of 5.3% of its market cap. So a larger percentage of Ethereum's market cap is held by these institutions, these ETFs, right? It means every $1 into Ethereum ETFs has nearly 2 times the impact of $1 into Bitcoin ETFs. So it's basically like Bitcoin is half of what Ethereum is in terms of its market cap, right? The percentage that the institutions hold, at least. Not just for the price, but for the role in staking, yield, and real-world tokenizations. That's why Wall Street is quietly leaning heavier into Ethereum. Whenever Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin, history shows it sparks the capital rotation, which drives alt season. That's why it is necessary for Ethereum to continue making all-time highs. We already did hit an all-time high, but go past 5,000, go higher, right? The chart isn't just ETF flows, it's the early signal that the biggest gains of this cycle may come from Ethereum and alts, not Bitcoin. Which is true. That is why alt season is a thing, because people are like, oh, Bitcoin's too big, it's too overrated, it costs too much money, not a lot of volatility, not a big return, but you're only expecting Bitcoin to hit 150,000, that's not even a 2x. You want to look at altcoins that will give you a potential of a 5x or a 10x or 100 or 1000x on your return. So that's what the driving factor is for alt season, which I've explained many times. ETH holders with a balance between 10 and 100,000 ETH hit a new all-time high. This means more whales accumulating Ethereum, even at these prices, should be bullish overall. Ethereum validator execute just hit 2,673,340 Ethereums. This is the highest level in ETH history. I don't know what this means, honestly. Oh, for unstaking Ethereum. Okay, that makes sense. It does signify selling pressure, but it's rate limited to 8 validators per epoch. So it could be weeks before these people unstake their Ethereum. They're probably going to wait out to the alt season to play out, and then they will be selling, of course, with the extra Ethereum that they got from staking. Although it's not that great of an APY, so I'm not too concerned about it. It's the same as just people holding Ethereum right now, in my opinion. Solana flips Ethereum in social media dominance. I mean, part of the reason why we're seeing newer highs for Solana currently. It's crazy, this growth of Solana. Near all-time high. 295 is its all-time high, to be exact. These 3 altcoins are next. It's closing in on 265 all-time. What do you mean 265 all-time high? It's 295. Am I crazy? It's confirmation that we are deep in alt season. Here's what I expect for Solana into the year end and the 3 coins this person is buying next. Solana has been the cleanest trade of this rotation. That is true. I purchased at 178. Stupidly was forced sold at 200. Should have never put a stop loss because I'd be in significant profit by now. It's now about 240 plus. We just checked 246. This is not the all-time high. It's, I don't know what this guy's talking about. Target remains to 260 by year end. That is way too low. I'm sorry to break it to you. 300 plus would be my personal target on something like Solana. It's just so popular right now. There's no reason why it shouldn't. It should even go higher than that, I would argue, right? Maybe 400, 500. That's being a little too aggressive though. 500 max. But still, 300 plus, I absolutely see that happening for Solana this cycle. If for Ethereum, this guy has his own bot and everything. Chasing into resistance rarely plays, but patience is key. Okay. This is just Solana season wrong. The signal has been clear since mid-August. What are your coins that you're planning next? Okay, the 3 you're watching closest. Sui, Avalanche, and Aptos. Okay. I agree with Sui and Aptos. Avalanche, I feel like the drive isn't really there. It's good. Don't get me wrong. Avalanche is fine. I don't know. I think there's better plays than Avalanche, though. Like, there's no issues with Avalanche inflation. Like, it has a max supply and everything, so that's fine. But I don't know. I don't know if they're focused on the right things. It's not going to be well driven in terms of narrative, in terms of what their project brings, what their project solves. There's just better options. Sui and Aptos, I understand. They would be good Solana killers. Very high transactions per second. Good utility. And they have their own ecosystems, right? Planning to be cheaper and faster. That's what everything should aim to achieve, right? I don't know. But fine, sure. It'll still do well. Avalanche will still... All altcoins will do well. It's just that they won't reach their 2021 all-time highs. I'm not too sure, actually, for Avalanche. What was its all-time high? 120. Yeah, no. We're already at a pretty high market cap. What is this market cap over here? 20, almost 30 billion. The market cap, I don't think, has really changed, right? There's a lot of it in the circulating supply that can still be unlocked, but I'm sure they have their good tokenomics for scheduled unlocks. Somebody do the math here. It's 15 to 30. You're basically requiring it to do it 2x, and if it does that in its price, from 30 it will probably reach 60, which that's not that impressive in its market cap, right? Because we reached a 30 billion market cap here. We're at 12, almost 15, I would say. I don't think it's going to reach that high if we get that same amount of capital that we got in 2021. Yeah, I don't know. It's not going to hit an all-time high, probably. I could be wrong. I don't know. I think there's just better options than Avalanche, just me personally. Heavy and large caps, the top 20, rotate into laggards. So the ones that haven't had a big move yet. Cardano, XRP, yeah, sure. Stellar, HBAR. HBAR would be a better option than something like Avalanche, in my opinion. They are pretty quiet. I'll agree with that. Ignore the noise. Every week brings a new headline narrative. Hold for the broad rotation. It's an alt season. And it's the whole Solana ecosystem, which I agree. Jupiter has been pumping. Bonk. Pump Fun. Huge return on that. Radium's been doing well. The same will happen with ETH's ecosystem, XRP's payment tokens, and so on. Ecosystems rise together, and that's what alt season is by definition, which is true. You have the underlying L1 blockchain, make its big move, and you'll see all of its DEXs and dApps follow along with it. L2s of that blockchain, they'll continue to move forward. That's just how it works. My last bit of news for you guys tonight. Binance overtakes the Union Bank of Switzerland, which is the world's largest private bank, in market cap. Crazy good for Binance, already higher in market cap than, I guess, a source, trust me bro, of the world's largest private bank. CZ commented on this saying, hey, you know what, banks, you guys should probably adopt some BNB. Imagine if banks just have a Binance crypto reserve. As a small community member, he's happy to help any bank integrate. And with the popularity of crypto, the way institutions are already adopting it, it could happen. Now, specifically for BNB, though, why not just use Bitcoin at this point? Like, come on. But Binance, okay, I'll admit it. They're doing really well. All-time highs still. So, congrats. Yeah, we hit an all-time high, 944. Our current price is 937, if you care at all. I do not plan on entering into Binance, especially not at those all-time high prices. What are you, crazy? I'd rather buy, I don't know, Sui or Aptos. Aptos, I think, is probably still the safest play out here, even though it's already had a good rise so far. You know, won't hurt if you have your liquidation price at this doesn't make sense. Oh, 292. I'm blind. Yeah, 292. We have not hit that in the price of Aptos' history. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. Aptos all-time low. Do we see that here? $309. Your all-time low for Aptos is $309. If you're going to get liquidated at $290 with 3x leverage at these prices, come on. I think a 5-year-old could figure this out. All right, but that's all. I should put my money where my mouth is then, huh? I'll play it safe nonetheless. I wonder how Pepe is doing. That's the last thing I'll check before I end it off, because I sold it yesterday, took a good profit. Did I do the right thing? What did I sell at? The numbers matter here. Pepe sold 0.1209. We're lower than that, so that's a win in my books. And, I mean, we hit higher than that, 0.1270. Sure, but was I really going to be awake at 8 a.m. on a Saturday to look at my crypto coins? No. I was going to sleep in this morning. But yeah, all right, cool. I think I did the right thing. I don't know anyone who loses money by taking profits, so good. That is all. Bitcoin ripping up 116K. Decent. Thanks, guys, so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for subscribing and leaving a like on the video. Much appreciated. I saw a lot of bot comments. I think they're bot comments. There's no way it's real. I got, within 3 hours, it was something crazy like 10 or 20 comments on the USAT coin, the US Tether coin. I was doing my research on it. Okay, I'll talk about this before I actually end. I did a bit more research on the USAT, which is Tether's new stablecoin that they will be launching natively in the US, because the USDT that currently exists, it's a global stablecoin. I mean, I think I mentioned yesterday, I spread misinformation, I'm sorry. I said it was based in Europe. It's not, although I think they have one of their headquarters in some place like the Netherlands, I think. That's where I got the idea that they're based in Europe, with European regulations, MiCA, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't fully regulated in the United States, mainly due to what they hold in terms of their, bonds, treasuries, that kind of stuff. They got to do what USDC does in order to be accepted in the United States. The stuff that's happening with the Genius Act and all that stuff that's specifically related to stablecoins, they want to benefit from that, and they want to, of course, stay a good competitor to USDC, the Circle's stablecoin, right? So it's just a big battle between Tether and Circle, who can be the biggest adopted coin from institutional investors. And personally, I'm going to stick with USDC, although Tether has Bo Hines on their side, ex-White House digital assets advisor or whatever it was. So they got that going for them, which is good. But I'm still going to stick with USDC. They already got everything approved. They're already out on the stock market. The company already exists. You could argue that for USAT as well, but come on. BTC, USAT, oh, that's just a terrible ticker, honestly. USAT. They can't use UST because that was Terra Luna's coin, their stable coin. But that was also a terrible ticker in my opinion. I'm really picky about the tickers. USDT, it's pretty cool, but they can't use that. They can't, fundamentally change the whole stablecoin because it already exists. There's already billions of dollars held in that stablecoin. It would be risky to obviously make any changes live right now. So I guess that's the reasoning for creating a whole new project, USAT. That's the little update, the little insight that I have on that. So for the time being, I'll stick with USDC. I mean, it's already accepted in like Canada specifically for buying it on exchanges. You can't do USDT. You can't purchase that on centralized exchanges in Canada, for example. So that's my little reasoning for it. And it's being more allowed with trading pairs, right? Not everything is allowed to be traded with USDC on an exchange like BingX, for example. Or I don't know if you guys use BitUnix, for example. Like that's all USDT. It's strictly USDT. And here we have lots more pairs that use USDT. So it still does have its uses, but I'm starting to stay away from USDT and focus more on USDC. Sending it seems a bit easier. You just use Base, Coinbase's ecosystem to send it. It's relatively cheap, pretty fast. Their network, I should say, not their ecosystem. And with Tether, it's like a hassle because it's all Ethereum. And if I want to send it to like a different wallet, an external wallet, it's a hassle. You got to pay a lot in fees, and that's annoying, and nobody wants to do that. So if I want to cash out, like I have to send it to a centralized exchange. That's usually what's got to be done. And to do that, of course, it has to be with Circle, USD Circle. So there you go. That's my opinions on it, if you care or asked. Yup. Nothing I recognize here is making any good movements downwards. Mantras down, I guess, if you care. Yeah, okay, that'll actually conclude this stream tonight. Thanks, I overstayed my welcome. It is what it is. I will probably see you tomorrow because nothing important will happen. All right, have a good night. Bye.